Hello, lovelies. This is 5 Minute Manifesting. I'm your host, Lovey Brown. Thank you so much for listening. I'm thrilled that you're here. Today, let's talk about possibility and what it means to believe something is possible. So, one of the steps that I think is very helpful in the manifesting process is understanding whether you believe something is possible or not possible. And where you kind of are on that spectrum, because possibility is really a spectrum, and it doesn't matter where you are on it when you're first manifesting something, right? So, as you know, I believe that the first step in manifesting anything is getting absolute clarity on what it is you want and your desire. It's very likely that this part comes pretty easily to you. You know what you want. Sometimes the tricky part is like really nailing down like some specifics. I think getting specifics is great. You don't have to have them, but I think it's really helpful in the process. The next part I think you need to do, or is helpful to do, is deciding, do I believe that's possible? And sometimes the answer to that question can be a little tricky because, especially for those of us who have a tendency towards the belief anything is possible. Right? And I have a tendency towards the belief that anything is possible. In fact, I would say I really believe that's true. However, I know that there are some instances in my life where I don't know what's probable, and that probableness can inhibit my possibility belief. So, right, I believe anything is possible, but I'm like, oh, but it's probably not probable, and that can sometimes affect my ability to focus on what I'm manifesting. So let's take an example of this in my manifesting life. So one thing that I have not yet manifested is a big lottery win. I've won money of varying amounts. I've not won a large amount in the lottery. I've won a few $100s here and there, but I've not won a large amount in the lottery. I've won larger amounts in other ways, but I haven't won a big multi-million-dollar jackpot in the lottery. And it's something that I think a lot of people are interested in manifesting. And so when I'm thinking about this, I know that it's possible. People win the lottery, right? We see lottery winners. I know that it's possible. However, I still have some resistance and this sort of idea that it's not super probable that I would be the winner. And I want to release that. And so let's just talk about ways of going about releasing it. So the first way is just totally letting yourself off the hook. Because we've talked about before, you can have a feeling and you can still get your manifestation. So I can feel like it's not probable and still get my manifestation anyway. Right? So I just have to get clear about that in my internal world. So I can do that by saying something like, even though I think it's not probable that I will win the lottery, I can have that feeling and still win the lottery anyway. Right? So that's one way of getting around it. Another way is just practicing a different feeling. Putting your focus on the feeling that's closest to the feeling that you want to have. Right? The feeling of abundance in the case of a lottery win, the feeling of love in the case of a relationship, and putting your focus on that feeling and doing whatever you can to feel like you already have it. That's another route there. So there's always multiple routes to the place you want to go. And the solution for you is to find the best route for you, the one that feels the best for you. Right? Yes, that is right. So those are two routes to that place. Now, what can be tricky is our human brains, sometimes when we want to change our focus on purpose, really just keep drawing us back to the thought that we don't want to have, right? The place we don't want to focus. And if that's happening to you, okay, no big deal. What you're going to do again right here is just let yourself off the hook. Okay, I acknowledge you feeling that keeps coming back into my body, that keeps coming back into my brain, that this isn't probable, that this lottery win isn't probable, that my specific person is with a third party. Okay. You just accept it fully in that moment. Accept it fully. And then you move on to something else. And as many times as you come back to it, you accept it and move on. Accept it and move on. And that's what you do. So those are some just different ways of dealing with the ideas around possibility and probability and getting your manifestation. Thank you so much for listening. May you manifest exactly what you want.